Some famous movie makers, think the likes of Steven Soderbergh or John Boorman, have throughout their careers prided themselves on exploring a plethora of genres and styles. Those are the types of directors it's virtually impossible to pin down. They are rare though. Most filmmakers, including the great ones, have a tried and tested formula that leaves fans knowing more or less what to expect. It's not a bad thing, just look at Wes Anderson. But for those times when someone you thought you knew takes a big risk, it's always worth talking about. I'm Scott from WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 completely unexpected films by famous directors. Number 10, Hugo, Martin Scorsese's 3D kids film. Scorsese's a man who's only ever made movies with an adult audience in mind. Mean Streets, Raging Bull, The Last Temptation of Christ, that 3D G-rated extravaganza about a boy who lives in a clock. Wait, what? Yes, it's a major departure. Anyone coming to the film fresh would have no idea the guy behind Taxi Driver had it in him to make something so warm, friendly, and colourful. There are still hints as to a mature sensibility though. Hugo's script pays tribute to cinematic history in a bunch of cool ways from start to finish. Number 9, Hulk, Ang Lee's superhero movie. The decision to give Ang Lee the pre-Marvel Studios Hulk film preempts the now in vogue predilection for seeking out auteurs to helm comic book projects. Sadly though, Lee and comic book movies just didn't fit, and we got a movie about a character known for smashing everything to pieces, just spending the majority of the film talking. Since Hulk, Ang Lee has gone back to doing what he does best, dropping a couple of masterpieces in Brokeback Mountain and Lust Caution, alongside an Oscar favourite in Life of Pi. Interestingly though, Ang Lee and writer James Schamus were prepping a sequel to this until general response was almost unanimously negative. Hey, that desert scene though, that's pretty damn good. Number 8, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, David Fincher's Gumpian fairy tale. Aesthetically, Benjamin Button still looks like a David Fincher movie. The green, gold, brown chiaroscuro photography providing the biggest clue as to who's at the helm. Aside from that though, it's anything but Fincher. Benjamin Button is sentimental, magical, and near enough family friendly. This different side of the auteur didn't last though, and Fincher followed Button up with the stinging nihilist biopic The Social Network, then horror thriller The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. It was good to have him back. Number 7, The Straight Story, David Lynch's quirky Disney dramedy. Seemingly made as some kind of palate cleanser in between the madness of Lost Highway and Mulholland Drive, The Straight Story is Lynch's ode to Alvin Straight, an Iowan World War II veteran who traveled 240 miles on a lawnmower to be by the side of his ailing brother in 1994. As you do. To be fair, if there's any real-world person David Lynch would make a movie out of, it was always going to be someone like this. Still, The Straight Story is a departure in that the whole thing is supposed to be set in reality. Lynch called it his most experimental movie, which should offer some indication of how normal, quote-unquote, it truly is. Number 6, The Bridges of Madison County, Clint Eastwood's middle American romance. Starring Meryl Streep as a lonely housewife and Eastwood as the visiting photographer wooing her into an affair, The Bridges of Madison County is basically the antithesis of every other Clint Eastwood movie. Achingly romantic and lovingly shot, where Unforgiven, Mystic River, and Million Dollar Baby are gritty, murky, and generally full of death, Madison County is so uncharacteristically thoughtful, you question as to whether Clint Eastwood really is this gunslinging man's man after all. Of course, his next movie was Absolute Power in 1997, and he never revisited things like this ever again, even saying he couldn't wait to get back to shooting and killing during the filming of Madison County. That's the spirit. Number 5, Punch Drunk Love, Paul Thomas Anderson's Adam Sandler comedy. After Boogie Nights, Magnolia, There Will Be Blood, The Master, and Inherent Vice, it's fair to say that Paul Thomas Anderson is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, American filmmakers working today. His films are mature, character-driven, technically immaculate, often visually stunning pieces of work. So what the hell was he thinking when he made a movie with Adam Sandler and a comedy at that? First announced at a press conference whilst promoting Magnolia, journalists actually laughed when he said his next film would be a rom-com starring Sandler, because given the enormous gap in quality between the two men's films, that is a genuinely hilarious joke. Turns out Anderson was entirely serious, and the result is one of his best movies. Not to mention, it's easily Sandler's best ever film by a fair distance. Ugh. Number 4, A Dangerous Method, David Cronenberg's straightforward period piece. Known for dissolving hands with acid vomit and actual leg wound sex, which you can Google at your own peril, Cronenberg's 19th movie was a fairly standard period piece about philosophers Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung. Instead of being infused with uncomfortable psychology about how we're all apparently supposed to be in love with our own mothers, A Dangerous Method is a movie about psychology itself, and specifically its modern foundations. Michael Fassbender and Viggo Mortensen chew the fat as Jung and Freud, and aside from scenes of Fassbender trying to spank Keira Knightley's damaged patient back to sanity, the film is conventional, talky, and, well, a little bit dull. Maybe we could have done with some acid-spitting animatronics after all. Number 3, The Keep, Michael Mann's occult horror movie. With 1981's Thief, it confirmed Mann's interest in the criminal world would follow him to the big screen, paving the way for crime classics such as Manhunter, Heat, and Collateral. Notably though, his second film was actually a full-on pulpy occult horror. The Keep currently can't be found on DVD in the UK or US, which would explain why so few have heard of it, not to mention the fact that it isn't anything Mann looks upon as his finest hour. But if you want to see an evil ancient entity named Radu Molasar battle Nazis alongside a magical Scott Glenn, consider this your latest eBay mission. Number 2, Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans. Werner Herzog's cop procedural. There are few directors quite as out there as Werner Herzog, a man who once saved Joaquin Phoenix from a car crash before running away, who ate his own shoe because he lost a bet, and who continued an interview with Mark Kermode despite being shot. Herzog's films, then, reflect this eccentricity. 2010's Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans certainly had a balmy name, but it was written like a slightly higher quality episode of any TV cop drama. Of course, Herzog managed to sneak in some of his own offbeat quirks. Singing iguanas and breakdancing corpses do feature, plus Nicolas Cage gives an engagingly madcap performance, which, to be honest, is one of his all-time best. And number 1, Miss Marple, Nemesis. Nicholas Winding Refn's Miss Marple movie. Sounding like a report by The Onion that accidentally got misinterpreted as fact, Nicholas Winding Refn back in 2007 really did direct a Miss Marple movie. Yes, Refn is more known for hyper-stylization and violence, more at home stomping heads and greasing up Tom Hardy for a brutal naked fight than guiding Geraldine McEwen through a doddering English tea-time village. But sometimes you just need to go where the money is. Shot in between completing the ultra-violent Pusher trilogy and writing and directing Bronson, Refn points out that he did the movie because, and I quote, "I needed the money, pure and simple."